said it before and I'll say it again. Joe Biden just continually gets loss after loss after loss for an entire full year. The only thing that he's so far managed to actually pass is the infrastructure bill just a few months ago. He tried to campaign heavily on that and finally managed to do it. He also tried to get his Build Back Better plan, but that inevitably was scrapped because Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin did not want to pass that. They were listening to their own voters in their states of Arizona and West Virginia, respectively. And that's been the entire case. Joe Biden cannot, I repeat, cannot get anything done. And that clearly shows within his press conference the other day. His press conference was about an hour and 20 minutes, and I swear to God, the reporters were intentionally asking questions very, very slowly just because of Joe Biden's cognitive decline. It's obvious that it's funny how obvious it is at this point, even though that the White House and even the mainstream media don't want to admit. But what really gets me about this, what really gets me about this press conference is not just about the failures. It's not just the fact that he claims that he's outperformed, when in reality he's underperformed. Like, that alone is an understatement of itself. But what he talked about in regards to the voting rights bill that he just tried to pass in the Senate. Now, for those who do not know, the voting rights bill basically has done the same thing, tried to do the same thing as H.R. 1, which is basically to federalize all elections, as well as to end the filibuster, among other things. And honestly, if this bill had passed, I'm in agreement with Sticks, Hacks, and Hammer saying that the Supreme Court would not allow this to actually go because it would violate the 10th Amendment, as well as the obvious fact that within the U.S. Constitution, it specifically states that the power of changing voting laws lies to the states. Not the federal government, the states. But I'm digressing. What he said is just kind of mind-boggling, and it shows here on this article with ABC News. Psaki Harris argued Biden wasn't saying 2022 election results might not be legitimate. So here it is. One day after President Joe Biden appeared to cast doubt on whether the midterm election results will be legitimate without the passage of a new voting rights law, his vice president and press secretary, worked to dispel any mistrust in the integrity of the vote. They obviously did not do a good job of that, didn't they? Speaking of voting rights legislation, if this isn't passed, do you still believe the upcoming election will be fairly conducted and its results will be legitimate? A reporter asked Biden Wednesday at a lengthy press conference marking the end of his first year in office. That was yesterday. Well, it all depends on whether or not we're able to make the case to the American people that some of this is being set up to try to alter the outcome of the election. If he's talking about the bill itself, he just admitted that he's trying to alter the outcome of the election. And yeah, this raises 2020 in high doubt, if it hasn't already. I'm not saying it's not going to be legit. It's the increase in the prospect of being illegitimate is in direct proportion to us not being able to get these reforms passed. Joe Biden told the reporter who followed up on his assertion that the integrity of the results depends upon passing voting rights legislation. And this is what I find hilarious because, or well, not really hilarious, just typical. Because when it's the Democrats who cheat, or the mainstream media, the establishment, or just, yeah, obviously also the Democrats, anyone who calls out the possibility of cheating, such as what happened in 2020, I mean, it should be completely obvious, especially what happened with the Arizona audits, showing that discrepancies just within mail-in voting was 5 times larger than the gap that Joe Biden supposedly won Arizona in. You're apparently unpatriotic and you're threatening democracy. But when Democrats try to say that the integrity of the election would be compromised if they don't get what they want in terms of passing the voting rights with this voting rights bill, which again, to clarify, would end the filibuster and to nationalize all elections. That's completely fine. It's completely fine. There is no problem with this. Question 2022, question 2016, despite the fact that the 2016 did not come up with anything that would actually prove there was actual issues with the 2016 election. Take it back. There may have been issues with the 2016 election, but in terms of how Democrats claim that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians, absolutely not. There's been no evidence to suggest that. And of course, passing the voting rights bill, somehow not passing this voting rights bill automatically makes it illegitimate. Jeez, Democrats with their double standards, or at least the Democratic Party leadership with their double standards. I should not be attacking all of the Democratic Party, because I'm pretty sure there are several different liberals who have a difference of opinion with this. But anyway, continuing on with the article. Early Thursday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tweeted refuting the notion Biden claims there's a possibility the election results will be questionable. Well, he just did say that it increases in the prospect of, I quote, it's the increase in the prospect of being illegitimate is in direct proportion to us not being able to get these reforms passed. In other words, if we get this bill passed, we could not only would we control the outcome, the laws of elections, we will also be able to determine the outcome of the elections. It's kind of funny because Joe Biden, when Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona actually said no because of the obvious fact of that this bill would end the filibuster in the Senate, he actually called it voter suppression. How funny that is, especially since they refused to, they called out anyone who wanted to issue a audits back in the 2020 election. And they also tried to attack the Arizona audit as well. This just gets crazier and crazier with me. Now continuing on where I last started. Let's be clear, POTUS was not casting doubt on the legitimacy of the 2022 election. He was making the opposite point. In 2020, a record number of voters turned out in the face of a pandemic, and election officials made sure they could vote and have those votes counted. He was explaining that the results would be illegitimate if states do what the former president asked them to do after the 2020 election, toss out the ballots and overturn the results after the fact. The big lie is putting our democracy at risk. We're fighting to protect it. We're not a democracy, woman. We are a constitutional republic. There's a big difference there. And by the way, a lot of smaller local elections, like there was one that I've heard from the Epic Times, from a guy named Roman. I can't remember his last name. He actually talked about this one local council election down in the state of Florida, whereas it turns out one of the guys actually lost in reality and was kicked out of his council seat. And considering, again, I'm bringing up the Arizona audit, we saw, at least in the mail-in ballots, that there were irregularities 5 times that than the gap that Joe Biden supposedly won Arizona with. That should raise some questions. Again, why the hell is this fine when it's a local election, but when it's some federal election or congressional election, we should not have the states overturn them? I think that makes sense to me. Anyway, Psaki also appeared on Fox News saying directly that Biden was not making a prediction about the legitimacy of the results. I talked to the president about this, and he's not predicting that the 2022 elections will be illegitimate. Psaki said on America's newsroom, the point it was making, the former president even asked 7 or more states to overturn the outcome of the election. Now, obviously, if there is an effort to do that, we have to fight against it. That's what our commitment is to doing. But he was not making a prediction. He has confidence in the American people and do everything we can to protect people's rights. Y'all, honestly, the American people, if you have seen the polls with, I've seen one poll actually showing that the approval of Joe Biden with 34%. The American people have no confidence in Joe Biden, and he knows it. He clearly knows it. He's afraid that coming 2022, November 2022, he's gonna get his ass stomped. The Democratic Party will lose. Probably the Republicans are going to retake the House and maybe even get a seat or two in the Senate. That's just for the moment, as of January 21st, 2022, my overall prediction. And that especially it is backed by the fact that there are at least 28 Democrats in the House that are planning to retire. Now on with Harris from the Insider. The article's title, Psaki tells Fox News that Biden absolutely is not predicting that the 2022 elections would be legitimate. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, here we go. In his press conference, Biden emphasized that if the legislation failed, his party would not give up. We've not run out of options yet, he said. Vice President Kamala Harris said on Thursday that the White House is considering executive orders on voting rights after the legislation was brought on Wednesday evening. Oh, man. It's the fact that they're trying to say that Biden is not claiming that there's going to be illegitimacy if they don't get what they want, or there's not going to be any illegitimate election, despite the fact that they want this voting rights bill to be passed. It's kind of funny, especially when Kamala Harris specifically said on the Insider that they're considering using executive orders. Again, the Constitution does not grant them that. It is granted to the states. What this obviously shows that Biden and Harris are afraid. They know that the Republican Party will definitely stop them in the midterms. And this is not just the Republican Party that they're afraid of. I'm pretty sure even rhinos are kind of afraid of this, because many of these guys who are running in the House and even a few in the Senate are populists, people that Trump supports. And if they manage to gain any seats, that gives Trump more political power, more political capital to be able to do what he wants, to be able to find a way in order to screw over Biden's regime and the Democrats as well. It will be really hilarious if and when this happens. Because this goes to show to you, populism is rising in America. Whether you're in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, populism is rising. And no, I don't consider the socialism bandwagon movement to be populism. Populism in itself, just for the fact that the people are just tired of and sick of just the de facto status quo that's been going on for at least 3 decades. People are tired of that, and they want change. They absolutely want it, and they want it now. And their best bet is with the Republican Party. If the Republican Party manages to change, and I bet it will, thanks to the help of Trump, DeSantis, and a lot of other people, populism will be part of the major platform in the Republican Party. They will be able to use that to get closer to the people. And when the people get closer to the people, they gain massive power. They will get massive power if and win, they manage to get the Democrats out of the House and potentially out of the Senate. And guess who looks bad with this? You guessed it, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But then again, as I said before, the American people have little to no confidence in Joe Biden. And I'm pretty sure that'll show in the midterms. My name is Noah Meehan on The Art Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share it with friends. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as how I speak, or anything, whatever, any suggestions on improvement, please post them down in the comment section down below. Thank you.